Who is the next Xenoblade composer? That would seem like a very simple question. I mean, we have multiple composers who worked on the Xenoblade games. There's the more obvious ones, like Yasunori Mitsuda, who has been there ever since the Xenogears days, who has composed most of the games in the Xeno series. Manami Kiyota, who made some of the most calm, peaceful, and badass music in the Xenoblade games. There's Kenji Hiramatsu, who made some of the most iconic battle themes in the series. There's also groups like Ace, comprised by Tamori Kudo and Hiroyo Yamanaka, also known as Chico, Yutaka Kunigo, a newcomer to the series who composed only one song from Xenoblade 3. Heck, let's throw in Hiroyuki Sawano. He did rearrange some songs he did for Xenoblade X Definitive Edition, but there's one thing that all these composers need to achieve: to be a successor to Mitsuda himself. Let me explain. A couple months ago, there was a lot of speculation going on in the Xeno series fandom about Mitsuda collaborating with Kyoto on a very specific project. This is most likely something for Xenoblade, right? Video over? Manami Kyoto is Mitsuda's successor and she will be the main composer of the Xeno series? Well, not really. This is what it mainly is. Just speculation. They are working together indeed, but there's really nothing confirmed. But there is one other woman composer that I haven't mentioned that would fit the bill of the Mitsuda successor. Someone who actually worked with Mitsuda for over a decade now, has made music for most Xenoblade games at this point, and even worked on arrangements and orchestrations for Xenogears and Xenosaga albums. That's right, I'm talking about our golden girl, Mariam Abounnasr, composer, arranger, and orchestrator by trade, but most importantly, an artist. Now before we get started on yapping about Mariam for half an hour, I think it's a good time to remind you to subscribe. Yes, you! Subscribe to my YouTube channel! It will make me very happy! I want to try to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Also, don't forget to like and comment on this video and hit that notification bell. But for Queen's Cuticles, please subscribe! Anyways, hey guys! Luxker here. Let's talk about Mariam. Mariam Takahashi Abounnasr, her middle name is Takahashi, was born on January 10th, 1990 in London, England. She was born from a Japanese mother, likely married to a Middle Eastern father. That is because Abounnasr comes from an Arabic word, meaning something like the father of victory or success. As we see later, Mariam wasn't as successful starting out, but became victorious later on. Not much is known about Mariam in her early childhood, nor from her family, but we do know from an interview with Laura Shigihara, who is the composer of Plants vs. Zombies and typically does music and interview live streams of multicultural video game composers. It was revealed that Mariam mainly grew up in Japan in her childhood. She became interested in music and art when she was 7 years old, and took an interest in mastering the piano. Though surprisingly, when she was living in Japan, she was intimately more familiar with Western music rather than Japanese music when she began learning the medium. Though when she eventually moved back to the UK, she was more into classical music and creating these weird avant-garde creations to play on the piano. Other hobbies she has was composing her own music, sketching in diaries, and participating in a choir she was in middle school. Right after graduating from middle school, she loved music so much that she wanted to pursue a destiny as a composer. While taking classes in composition, music theory, and history in primary high school, she mainly became very interested in classical contemporary music through the likes of Stravinsky, Bartók, Steve Reich, and Arvo Pärt, along with the inspiration from French composers like Fauré, Saint-Saëns, and Poulenc. She initially wanted to compose for movies and TV shows, but what she really wanted to do was compose for video games. She was always interested in video games throughout her teenage years, But it was this one little important video game with a cabinet that made her pursue that dream. That's right, it was Klonoa 2 Lunatea's Veil that propelled her. Not only is it her favorite video game, but she was astonished by how music was used in the game. Okay, now it's time for that one Luxker rambling about their favorite video games. I already sung praises about Klonoa 2 in the past, but I haven't really talked about the diverse use of music from the game, ranging from all sorts of genres, rhythms, and themes to suit the mood of the levels, cutscenes, boss fights, you name it. But what really sets the music of Klonoa 2 apart from the games of its time is that music can be a powerful tool in setting emotions. My personal favorite track of the game is actually from the second to last level, where if you play Klonoa 1 and you listen to the music here, some parts of the music really hit you like a truck and feel so depressed, and it's the hardest level of the game too. Oh yeah, and there's Stepping Wind. I can really see why Mariam wanted to pursue music from Klonoa 2, because she wanted to capture those emotions into her own music, which was a big part of her childhood. With this game, along with the music from the Final Fantasy series, to discover artists like Nobuo Uematsu, Masashi Hamauzu, who created the soundtrack for the Saga series, and Kumi Tanioka, who did the soundtrack for the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. All of them played a part in her childhood to move on to higher education. After primary school, she went to the Royal Holloway, University of London to get her bachelor's in music when she graduated in 2012. She then went on to get her master's in Trinity Laban Conservatoire of Music and Dance. During her college years, she would write music to be used for concerts and perform recitals in those concerts. Unfortunately, during those recitals, it made her realize that she gets a case of stage fright very easily. One specific recital has her perform an avant-garde 18th or 19th century classical piece, then mixing it in with 20th century classical music. This became a problem for her because here's the thing, with classical pieces like Beethoven, there are people who aren't into classical music who would know what it sounds like, and those pieces made her judged, especially in avant-garde pieces. But with 20th century pieces like Stravinsky, there wouldn't be as many people reacting to the music due to how recent it is. She also claims that she wasn't a good student and would write music using her instincts. This obviously wouldn't fly into her recitals and music compositions. She would take out a few books on music theory to check out what to do next. Man, imagine if Mariam used ChatGPT to write music. But with all the concerts and recitals Mariam performed and got a grade in, she then happened upon the most golden opportunity in her life. During her time in college, she had a part-time job at a concert hall near Trinity Laban College. She happened to find the opportunity to work at a recital featuring Fujiko Hemming, a German-Japanese classical pianist. Suddenly, a female coordinator for the event happened to come across Mariam while she worked in the concert hall. After having a conversation with the coordinator, she realized that she is in contact with Yasunori Mitsuda, you know, the famous video game composer. After Mariam expressed interest with the composer, she got in touch with him for her. Feeling like she had butterflies in her stomach meeting him for the first time, the Japanese composer met Mariam face to face. After a lengthy conversation about herself and her drive to make music for video games, Mitsuda took interest. He then went on to assign her a new position at his music studio, Procyon Studios, after her graduation. At the time, she thought the opportunity with Mitsuda didn't have anything to do with music. She was not familiar with his work on games like Chrono Trigger or Xenogears, but she had heard his name before. She didn't realize many RPG songs that she listened to in her teenage years came from Mitsuda. She then agreed to Mitsuda's proposition, because she would have basically been left without a job after graduating college. Mitsuda happened to be there at the right place at the right time. Now, I just want to say how incredibly lucky this moment was for Mariam. As a multicultural individual struggling in college, with her being a ball of nervousness throughout her entire college years, with the multiple judgments people made about her, all of a sudden met one of the most famous video game composers of all time and asked her if she wanted a job after college? It just seemed like a rabbit out of the hat moment. But that's kind of why I've been drawn to Mariam here, because we all want to desire to work at a dream job straight after college, and that is basically what Mariam got. I'm not really jealous of her about it. It just seems like a lightning in a bottle moment for a person like her to be part of this. But that's where her life changed for the better. 2015 would be the most defining year of Mariam's life. Soon after she graduated, she left the UK to live in Japan to do work for Procyon Studios. The land where she grew up during her childhood is now going to become her dream job. After flying to Japan and joining Procyon, she documented her time there on a blog page she used from 2015 to 2018. In the blog, she mentions things like her nervousness, poor self-management skills, and the need to eat things like banana chips and chewy, an alcoholic beverage. Now, are you supposed to chew on this beverage to relieve stress, or never mind? Even at one point in her blog complaining about getting food poisoning. Man, with all those things that she went through, I would not want to live in her life in 2015. But among the poor stuff, she did mention things like performing in her first concert with Procyon called The Brink of Time, and even recorded a Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross arrangement album. She also blogged about trying to sing in a Valkyria Azure Revolution event, but completely botching it. Looks like those middle school singing skills did not pay off in the end, huh, Mariam? So that's mainly the stuff I want to cover in the blog page, because she then joined Twitter in 2017, and found that it was more convenient than just keeping a blog page because it can reach a wider audience, which paid off, and now she sits at 1.5k followers on there. When she was living in Japan and got used to her surroundings, Mariam seemed to have a change of heart in her origins, if she is natively or from the UK. Mariam mentioned in Laura Shigihara's interview that she constantly has a back and forth if she is a native Japanese speaker due to her Japanese birth mother.
Oh, technically my first language is in English, but because I've spent a lot of years in Japan, I'm beginning to question which is my actual first language.
But Mariam knew that just embracing Japan was the way forward, but occasionally would visit the UK, as she would travel a lot between Japan and the UK and Ireland during that time, because she would meet the people the Xenoblade community would be familiar with. Anuna, Jen Bird, and a lot of alcoholic drinks. Yeah, she was doing work for Procyon here, which was the beginning of something bigger. Let's talk about her job more in detail now with Procyon. She composes using Avid software. Avid is a multimedia company that focuses on multiple products related to media composition, including things like digital audio workstations, or DAWs. Mariam originally used Logic Pro, which is Apple's contemporary DAW software. She then switched to Avid Pro Tools for composing due to the more features it had. Besides Avid software and DAWs, Mariam also used Sibelius for arranging and orchestrating, which makes sense because that's kind of what Sibelius was made to do. While she composes on a piano waiting for ideas to come to her, she would mainly throughout her early career do arrangements and orchestrations. These are not limited to just video games, by the way. She composed for anime, mobile titles, music albums for Procyon, and much more. They include Xenoblade 2, Final Fantasy XV Episode Ignis, Inazuma 11, Aresu no Tenbin, and Orion no Kukuin, Black Butler, Book of the Atlantic, Valkyria Azure Revolution, Revolvers 8, Wonder Gravity, Pino no Juryuku Sunkai, Kingdom Hearts Orchestra, World of Trace, 20th Anniversary Xenogears Orchestra, the Nier Orchestra, and last but certainly not least, Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross Across the Worlds. But all this arrangement business actually got some notoriety globally. Mariam was responsible for arranging Frog's theme that was shown at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics opening ceremony. You know, that opening ceremony that played a crap ton of Square Enix and anime music for the opening ceremony. Does anyone remember how the internet was going bananas over that? Funnily enough, Mariam was casually watching the Olympics until she heard the arrangement play at the ceremony, and she was like, "That's my arrangement! That's my Froggy Boy!" Okay, not like that, but you get the picture. She got her 2 minutes of worldwide attention and fame. Anyways, let's talk about her job more. Whenever Mariam gets to arrange or orchestrate music, Mitsuda would give her some tunes that are half done, and she would sort of just finish them, like adding instruments or structure, or a rough sketch or orchestration to finish the whole piece off, along with a swig of beer. I think she says that in one of her interviews, I want to say, or I think I put that in there. Overall though, she needs to arrange and orchestrate music, because, and this is a quote from her, she gets really bored writing music. Wow, exhilarating stuff, huh, Mariam? No matter though, she gets better at writing and arranging music when working under pressure, where she has to deal with life's biggest struggle. Time! In fact, perhaps one of her biggest challenges with working in the music industry is having to stay up late to finish a project. Writing the arrangements for Valkyrie Azure Revolution had her stay up for 2 consecutive nights. And the worst part is she couldn't get her work done in time. And afterwards, feeling very numb in her back rather than feeling pain. It's like crunch and sitting in a chair for over 2 nights would seriously beat you up. Ah, the gaming industry. In the end, she enjoyed the experience because she worked with the Tokyo Symphony Orchestra, one of the most celebrated orchestras in Japan. But Mariam, just please take care of yourself. Have a glass of red wine every now and then. However, among all the stress, food poisoning, and alcoholic damages later, Mariam would take on her first big composition projects. Another Eden and Oninaki. Mariam started composing music for both games when she first started working at Procyon. Another Eden and Oninaki was co-composed by Mariam. The other is Shunsuke Tsuchiya, who is the main composer. Mariam's favorite song she composed is the field music from Another Eden because of the electronic sounds that were produced from the music. I happened to listen to both Another Eden and Oninaki's music that was composed by Mariam. And holy shit, she knocked it out of the park with some of these. Man, for being a rookie composer, she really put her mastery into video game music. Just like how she learned from Klonoa 2, many of her songs in both games have a range of feelings in them, from carefree and calm, to adventurous, to mysterious, to batshit crazy! Also, I mentioned the game as one of Mariam's arrangements earlier, but I actually realized now that she actually composed a few songs in Revolvers 8. One of them happens to use this little lick. Yeah, I guess Mariam took Mitsuda's most famous lick to use in one of the beginning of her compositions, huh? These songs propelled her composing career, which took a turn for the better in one of the best moments of her life. The Another Eden Far Away from Time 2018 concert was Mariam's favorite project she worked on. It was a 2021 album of arrangement concert that happened 3 years earlier. All of it was live streamed too before the album was released. Unfortunately, I could not find the live stream at all on the internet, so it is now lost media, but it was something that at the time for her was very new and nerve-wracking to her recording the arrangement album herself. Though with the musicians being very supportive, she was able to get the album done. With her playing on the piano during the live stream, the chat wanted her to play a song from the game on the piano. And typically, she would get nervous, but she would play for them anyways, because she had an incredible time overall with this project, and really propelled her for what's to come with Procyon. While continuing to work at Procyon Studios, Mariam is now suitable enough to do multiple compositions, arrangements, and orchestrations at the same time. But you may be wondering, what is the difference between them? To put them simply between each other, composers are the people who create the foundational music and material to be used throughout work. Composers also define the tone and style they want their music to be as well. Arrangers enhance and adapt the existing compositions while changing the material in the music to fit in with a certain style or genre. Orchestrators take the original vision and material of a composition and break it down to the actual instrumentation of a song. This is done to produce the orchestrator's tonality of the composition without altering the original structure. But when working in the video game music world, the composers and arrangers have to play the beta versions of games to find the tone or style of their composition or arrangement. And that is what Mariam does in her job: play video games and make music. Despite being more geared to composition in order to grow, Mariam has mentioned that she just prefers arrangements more than compositions. This is because her imagination is persistently more creative with arranging music, which makes sense. For the first 5 years working at Procyon, she has arranged pretty much everything Procyon played a part in. And personally, I find these arrangements more impactful than her actual compositions. Don't get me wrong, another Ida and Oninaki have great soundtracks, and many of the songs I use in this video are a test of that. But Mariam's heart is mainly with arrangements. That is where her art lies. But a lot of the time, Mariam finds it difficult to figure out what part of the process of arrangement she likes. So she develops the philosophy of needing an arrangement to flow to make this work. A great example is the Chrono Cross Across the World album. For many of the arrangements for that album, she needed to extend the music a bit longer than the original Chrono Cross music to make it 4 to 5 minutes longer for her arrangements. By beginning with the original part, and letting her imagination work as much as possible in later parts. She would even check if any of the arrangements she made can be played on the piano due to her immense skill using that instrument. However, like everyone working in music, Mariam wanted to be like her heroes that brought to where she was and orchestrate her own compositions as her own dream project, along with revising the music she would even compose for in the future. Speaking of orchestration, let's go into her use of instrumentation a bit more. She mentions in Laura Shigihara's interview of how she uses instruments in her orchestrations.
For example, for strings, they sound good and they play well in sharps rather than flats. So I'll be aware of that. If it was a minor key, it would be something like, I don't know, C minor or A minor, where there's no flats or keys at all. Try to sort of modulate though, so that it will make the music interesting. I'll shift into some other key for a while and then go back to the original.
With percussionists, Mariam lets them just play around with the music and just have them do their own thing with them. And the result ends up pretty interesting. Mariam seems to be doing a lot of improvisation with her percussionists, which is something that the team never really plans on. But the whole point of it all was for the people with instruments to have fun at the end of the day. Since 2020, she has helped arrange and orchestrate songs Procyon was involved with. They include Arena the Vampire Cosmonaut, Edge of Eternity, One by Sarah Lane, Isekai Anime and Video Game Muse by Sarah Lane, Delicious in Dungeon, Soul Covenant, and Across the Cosmos, Xenosaga Piano Collection. The latter I covered in a short series on my YouTube channel. In the little booklet for the CD, Mariam wrote about how she came up with the arrangements. My favorite paragraph is the one about the last battle, which happens to be the final boss theme for Xenosaga Episode 1. She mentions how she used a lot of trial and error with what would be cool to create the arrangement, which ended up being a lot trickier for it to perform. Man, Mariam, using your instincts again from your college years to make arrangements. I mean, she would only come up with these arrangements from the piano, which is the only instrument she plays on. According to Mariam herself, Procyon works as a bunch of individuals who compose, sound design, etc. They have to work with multiple companies who ask them for some sort of genre or music, and they would write down the music that would suit their needs, along with them having guidelines they would need to follow as well. But what if those companies speak English? Procyon studio members know next to no English. It turns out Mariam is the key to playing the role as an English to Japanese translator, since she grew up a lot of her life knowing English. She provides the rest of Procyon with a Japanese translation and vice versa of what both sides are saying. Whenever Mariam has free time from work, she likes to listen to lo-fi and smooth-sounding music, but mainly stepping away from the big band, orchestral-sounding music that would make her feel like she is working rather than relaxing. Probably one of her favorite genres she has listened to lately is K-pop. Just imagine what Mariam looking like a K-pop stan would be like. Okay, I'm not getting into that. She also exercises often, and tries to get as much sleep as possible. But on the total opposite end of the spectrum, though... It's true, you know. In a lot of Mariam's earlier blogs and Twitter posts, she really loves to share the food and drinks she has. In one of her blogs, she talks about business over the summer that leads into a hearty appetite during the autumn, never settling down until she finds something to eat, with her even getting worried about a health checkup if she eats too much. Another blog talks about needing to exercise, but she doesn't want to pay the membership fees. Talk about relatable, Mariam. And even talking about how she doesn't like the noticeable fat around her stomach. Mariam? You do look really thin in every picture I see you in, so the fat really isn't that noticeable. But her gluttonous nature continues, because almost every day, Procyon Studios would bring in a great spread of snacks for the group to chow on, from chocolates shaped like Mount Fuji, chips, etc. This was done so the staff would get motivated and create something very good from just eating those snacks every day. And that's very good of Mitsuda to do that, keeping his group well fed while trying, quote-unquote, to have a zero-tolerance policy with alcohol, which is something Mariam fails at. She loves alcoholic drinks, or many kinds of drinks for that matter, from Japanese sake to sparkling wine to anything fizzy and refreshing, from fruity desserts like parfaits and truffles to pizza from many types of local parlors, all to compare them. Mariam is the food and drink queen of Procyon Studios. So, I demonstrated throughout this whole video that Mariam is a curiosity of sorts. After over a decade of working with Procyon, and nearly 3 decades being involved with music, I believe Mariam Abounnasr has what it takes to compose a Xenoblade game. Despite her being more involved in arrangements and orchestrations, I believe if she can be pushed far enough, she would partake in it. But here's the thing that kind of puts me off just a little bit. You see, since Xenoblade games are made with a larger budget in mind with live instruments, Mariam would actually prefer to compose music in an orchestral manner.
I would write orchestrally, in an orchestral way, but that involves mostly sort of sample based rather than live instruments.
Another reason is while arrangers and orchestrators have to have a good amount of knowledge in music theory in order to perform your music tasks, composers need to have an astronomical amount of knowledge of music theory in order to compose music properly, and Mariam does not have that. But this is where I turn your attention to Xenoblade 3, the last game as of this video that Mariam has composed music for. She would end up composing 3 songs: Sun-Dappled Glade, Encroaching Malice, and A Life Become Distant. These songs in particular don't feel very noteworthy for a few reasons. They mainly show up in only a few cutscenes throughout the whole game, and are kind of used sparingly. In fact, she mainly ended up using Mitsuda's leitmotifs to make the songs feel complete. However, I think these songs actually show her strengths in composition, because of how these songs mainly use samples rather than the live instruments she provided, and she composes them with incredible elegance. But there was one song from Xenoblade 3 Story DLC called Future Redeemed that I believe has cemented herself as one of the all-time greats. The Black Mountains is the final location you come across in Future Redeemed. It's a song that starts out mysterious and calm, especially in the beginning section here. It's until you climb further up the mountain where you can hear the song begin to change into something more epic and grand, where you are approaching the end. And then just kind of loops back to the calm parts again. It's a pretty foreboding medley for the final area. There are some parts in the song that remind me of some of her electronic field music from Another Eden. Overall, this is a very good song she composed to make you just want to rush to the top and reach Prison Island. Until you hear this. Holy crap! This song comes from a pretty decent field song to literally a top tier song of the century. Just those added instruments in the song just make that music feel complete. Starting from everything she learned in her arrangement and orchestration days was what makes this theme feel like her entire career at Procyon was building up to in that moment. Mariam made an excerpt for this, specifically this piece, where she thought of Kried when composing this song, which is fascinating. In case you didn't know, Kried is a Xenogears arrangement album made by Yasunori Mitsuda in the late 90s. This composition that Mariam just made, it's like the entire circle of the Xeno series coming back into each other. Also, please listen to Kried if you finish Xenogears and need inspiration. I'm begging you! I think the whole point of the composition, and how it was designed this way, and that Mariam mentioned that Kried inspiration, is that she just gets it. This song and its variations is testament to how she knows the medium of music, even if it would become samples in the first place. In fact, you can even trace this composition back to when I talked about the music in the final area of Klonoa 2. Where hearing familiar music in the background evokes nostalgia from that time. I believe Mariam wanted to evoke that message into her magnum opus that is the Black Mountains, where you can hear instruments that were used in Prison Island's theme in Xenoblade 1. But all in all, Mariam proved that everything she learned up to this composition was warranted. But does all this work make her worthy to be Mitsuda's successor? I leave you a comment from Mariam that you can find on Procyon's website.
When I create music, what I value most is being observant of all kinds of things. From the things I feel during a short walk in the park, to thoughts I have while reading a book, to current topics and events. Even the smallest things become inspiration and fuel for my music. I feel that by cherishing such experiences, I can create unique and interesting music. Looking at music history, we see that the historical context and the composer's thoughts have influenced each work. That accumulation leads to the music of today, and then to the music of the future. I want to be a part of that, and I will strive every day to make my music reach you all, and even a little bit into the future.
To answer that question, I will let you decide that. Hey everyone, thanks for watching all the way to the end. I want to shout out Don Kotowski's video game music database interviews from 2018, 2020, and 2022, Laura Shigehara's 2023 interview on a Twitch VOD, a 2019 Famitsu interview, and just stuff from Mariam's blog and Twitter accounts. These sources were pretty instrumental in discussing Mariam's background as an artist. I also want to thank the video game music database themselves for cataloging all the songs Mariam composed, arranged, and orchestrated. It was a valuable resource for finding all of Mariam's songs. Also, would anyone be interested in me doing other biographies on other Xeno series composers? I definitely want to do one on Manami Kiyota someday, though doing one just entirely on Yasunori Mitsuda will definitely be a tall task. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Anyways, until next time, see you on the other side!